Today we're talking about two different sections, 8.4 and 8.5, and it's all about writing and solving proportions. Okay, so a proportion is two ratios that are set equal to each other. If you remember last week we talked about proportions, or we talked about ratios. So this could be written as 1 to 2, 1 to 2, or this right here could also be written as 1 to 2. Okay, so what this is two ratios that are set equal to each other. Here's an example. 1/2 equals 3/6, all right? Because 1 is exactly half of 2, 3 is exactly half of 6. What else could be equivalent to that? 4 what? 4 eighths. What about 5 tenths? What about 50 hundredths? All of those would be considered proportions because they are ratios that equal each other. Okay, so today we're going to talk about how to write and how to solve a proportion. All right, today I'm going to teach you two different ways to solve a proportion. I want you to go ahead and pull out your red pen just so that you know this one that we're going to be doing is equivalent ratios. So just draw a little cloud around equivalent ratios because this is what you will need to do if you're ever solving with equivalent ratios. As you look at this one, it says 3 is to 7 as y is to 21. So our whole goal here is going to be to solve this y right here, okay? I know this fraction, 3 is to 7, but I have an unknown over here for my y. So I have to figure out how to get this 3 to turn into a y. In order to do that, I'm going to see how I got my 7 to become a 21. In order to do that, you're either going to multiply by a number or you're going to divide by a number. So as I go from, I'm trying once again to figure out this to that, let's look at the 7. In order to get a 7 to turn into a 21, would I need to divide by a number or multiply by a number? Multiply, because you're trying to get it bigger. 7 times what number equals 21? Times 3. So all you're going to do to show me work is multiply by 3. Now, if we're going to be fair, if I multiply by 3 on the bottom, what should I do to the top? Multiply by 3 on the top. So down here at the bottom, you could see 7 times 3 equals 21. So on the top, we know 3 times 3 equals 9. Therefore, underneath it, you're simply going to write y equals 9. And now you have found out that 3 is to 7 as 9 is to 21. I want you to pull out your calculators for me. Go ahead and put 3/7 into your calculator. When you put that in there, what do you get? It stays as 3/7. Well, now let's go ahead and plug this 9 into where the y would have been. I want you to put 9/21 into your calculator. When you hit the equals button, it will simplify it. What does it come out as? 3/7. Therefore, you know 3/7 is equal to 3/7. So you do know that that did work out. Let's go ahead and go over here to problem B. Which fraction do I know? Do I know the first one or do I know the second one? I know the second one. Notice here there's an x. That's the unknown. Therefore, this time I am going to have to work from this fraction that way. So what do I know? Do I know everything on the numerator or do I know everything on the denominator? Numerator. I know the numerator. So I want you guys to help me figure out how do I get from an 18 to a 2? Will I have to multiply by a number or divide? Divide. 18 divided by what number equals 2? 9. So we're going to divide. We're basically working backwards. 18 divided by 9 equals 2. If I divide by 9 on the top, I have to divide by 9 on the bottom. So now you can see your answer for the bottom is going to be, we're going to just work from left to right, 45 divided by 9 equals what? 5. So your answer is x equals 5. Does that make sense how you found that out? Yes. If you wanted to plug it back into the original problem, right here you can see 2 over, instead of 2 over x, you would put 2 over 5. We know 2/5 is as small or as reduced or simplified as it can be, but I want you guys to go ahead and put 18/45 into your calculator. When 18/45 is simplified, what does it come out as? 2/5, and that is what we wanted it to equal. Okay, let's go ahead and try a couple more examples exactly like this. Which fraction do I know, the first one or the second one?
Second.
I know everything about the second one. Notice the first one, I don't know it because there is an unknown symbol right there. It's an M. So I have to work from my second fraction backwards. Do I know everything on the numerator or everything on the denominator? The numerator. I know right here all of that. So in order to get from an 8 to a 2, what do I need to do? Divide by 4. Divide by 4. This is how you show me work. So you're just working backwards. 8 divided by 4 equals 2. Now let's go ahead and do this other work from the bottom. I also have to divide by 4. Okay, we're working backwards. 16 divided by 4 equals 4. So M equals 4. I want you to try to do the last one on your own. Okay, I saw a lot of correct answers. Some people had some things incorrect. Notice, we know this right here, so I am going to be going from my first to my second, and I know everything on my denominator. How do I get from a 30 to a 60?
20.
What do I have to do to get from a 30 to a 60? Multiply by 2. If I multiply by 2 on the bottom, I've got to multiply by 2 on the top. Now we figure this out. What's 150 times 2? 300. So your answer is y equals 300. I want you guys to check it out for me real quick. Go ahead and put my first fraction into your calculator. 150 divided by 30. What do you get? 5. Now let's try the next one. Instead, I want you to go ahead and plug in that 300 up there and put in 300 over 60. When you simplify that, what do you get there? 5. So that's your way, once again, to double check it. You don't have to show me any work, but when you're going through a test or a quiz or homework, that's a good way just to double check to see if you found if they were equivalent or not. Let's go ahead and move on and write down number 2. Problem 2 is similar to problem 1 and the 4 examples we did there. However, we have to write the proportion first. Now just remember, a proportion is just 2 ratios set equal to each other. How would I write 6 is to 4 as a fraction?
6 over 4.
6 over 4. Equals, because remember, I've got to have that equal sign in between if I'm writing a proportion. It's saying 6 over 4 is equal to what? X over 8. Okay, so the way to read this is 6 is to 4 as x is to 8. As I look at those, I can see that I do know my first fraction because the unknown x is on the right. So I am going to be working from left to right for this problem. And I know that I have the denominator. So how do I get from a 4 to an 8? Times 2 on top and bottom. So what is my x?
12.
X equals 12. Make sense? All right, so that is how you write and solve a proportion if it is given to you like that. Now I want to teach you a different way that you can solve proportions. How many of you guys remember cross products from last year? All right, so basically what this is saying, whenever you have a proportion, 3 is to 4 as x is to 10, what it's telling you you can do is actually multiply across from each other like this. So take your red pen, I want you to circle the 3 and the 10 just like that. Guess what other ones I'm going to circle? The 4 and the x. So go ahead and circle those two also. Okay, so basically what this means that you're going to be doing, we're going to always start with this number up here on the top left. And what you'll do, bring down your equal sign directly underneath it because it helps it just to be a little bit neater. You're going to multiply 3 times 10 on the left side, and then I'll multiply what I have down here, 4 times x. Now remember, if you have a number next to a letter, that means to multiply. So I don't have to put it in parentheses or anything like that because I know 4x means that I'm multiplying. Okay? So let's go ahead and work on the left side. What is 3 times 10?
30.
30 equals 4x. Now, just like we've talked about before, our goal is to get the x by itself because we're trying to figure out what the answer is for x. How do I get that x by itself? Divide by 4. And remember, what you do to one side, you've got to do to the other side. So these will cancel out, and I'm left with x. Stick this in your calculator, 30 divided by 4.
It's 7.
Okay, what'd you get?
7.5.
7.5. Okay. Then what we're going to do is we're just going to rewrite the x so that it comes first. X equals 7.5. Now, I want you to just double check it and see if this makes sense. So start with this right here. 3/4, can that be any more simplified? No, that's as low as it's going to get. But now I want us to go ahead and take this 7.5 and plug it in up there. Because we have an equal sign here, it should equal 3/4. So I want everyone to put 7.5 over 10 into your calculators. When you hit equals, it will pop out as the simplified answer. What do you guys get? 3/4. So does 3/4 equal 3/4?
Yes.
All right, so that's a way to double check if the work that you did when doing cross products was correct or not. Okay, so number 3 says to use cross products to solve the proportion. I want you to go ahead and just draw that red cloud around cross products because on a quiz, test, and even on tonight's homework, it'll ask you specifically whether it wants you to use equivalent ratios to find the answer or cross products, okay? So this is what we're going to do for cross products. What do you think goes when I have 5:2 as y is to 10? What should I circle with my 5?
The 10.
The 10, because it is across from it diagonally, and then the 2 and the y. Now, just to make your work extra neat, put that equal sign directly underneath it. We're going to start with the top left, so I'm going to multiply 5 times what?
10.
Times 10, then start with the bottom left, 2 times y, okay? And then you always know you want your number to come before your variable. On the left side, what is 5 times 10? 50 equals 2y. Emma, what do I have to do to get that y by itself? Divide by 2. Okay, so we're going to divide by 2, and what I do to one side, I've got to do to the other just to be fair. And I'm left with what, Michael? What is 50 over 2, or 50 divided by 2?
25.
25. Okay, now once again, just rewrite it because we want to always put our variable first. Y equals 25. If you were to double check and stick this up here, I want everyone to go ahead and put it in your calculators, 25 over 10. Remember, when you hit the equals button, your simplified answer comes out. What do you get? 5 over 2. Is that what this one says? Yes, so you do know your answer is correct. Let's go on to the next one. We've got 3.6 and 14.4 and 3x. I want you guys to try this on your own and see if you can get it. On the left side, we know that we're going to be multiplying 3.6 times 14.4. On the right side, we're going to have 3x. What is 3.6 times 14.4? 51.84 equals 3x. How do I get that x by itself?
Divide by 3.
Divide by 3 on both sides. And what does x equal?
17.28.
How many of you got that as your answer? All right, then just remember we want to go ahead and put our x first. X equals 17.28. Great job. If you didn't get it, that's okay. We'll keep working different problems to try to understand it a little bit better. This is asking us a different kind of instruction. It asks to tell whether or not the ratios can form a proportion, as in, can they be equal to each other? So what we're going to do is we will take the 3.4 and multiply it times that 6.5, just like we would with cross products. Guess what we're going to multiply the 4.3 by?
5.6.
5.6. Go ahead and plug this into your calculator. 3.4 times 6.5.
Oh.
Landon, what do you get?
You get 222.
Landon, what do you get?
Are you learning?
You get 22.1. Gabby, what about the other side? When you multiply 4.3 times 5.6, what do you get? Okay, 24.08. Guys, do those equal each other?
No.
No. So you're going to put this little line through it saying 22.1 does not equal 24.08. As I look back at my instructions and it asks me tell whether the ratios form a proportion, the answer is no, they do not form a proportion because they do not equal each other when I work it out like that. I want you guys to go ahead and try this next one, problem B, on your own. All right, so you're going to multiply by cross products. 4 times 32 is supposed to be equivalent to 8 times 16. What is 4 times 32?
128.
What's 8 times 16?
128.
Are those equivalent?
Yes.
Yes, then they do perform or form a proportion. Okay? How many of you got that correct on your own? Excellent. We're going to do one more example today. All right, I know a lot of times people get scared when they see a story problem, but there is nothing to be scared about, okay? We're thinking about today, we've been talking a lot about proportions. So we're going to just set up a proportion from the story problem. Read to me what the story problem says. It takes 15 gallons
of paint to cover 300 square foot area. How many square feet would 6 gallons of paint cover?
Okay, so let's set it up first. 15 gallons of paint will cover how much?
300 square feet.
It will cover 300 square feet. So now we just got to figure out something that could be equivalent to that. If something is going to be equivalent, then please know it's going to say gallons on top and square feet on bottom, okay? Because it's equivalent. If this says gallons, the top over there must say gallons. If this says square feet on the bottom, this has to say square feet on the bottom also. That's the only way it's going to be equivalent, or it can be a proportion to each other. So let's see what else we know. It's asking us how many square feet. So am I going to know my square feet?
No.
No. Instead, I'm just going to put an X. That means I'm trying to find that X. Does it tell me how many gallons of paint is going to cover this? 6, okay? So right there, we're trying to figure out how many square feet is going to cover 6 gallons of paint. Now we're just going to simply work this exactly like we had done before with our cross products. When you're doing a story problem, you always want to have your answer come out with units. But as you're working cross products, you don't have to keep the units there as you're doing it. So right now, the 15 is my multiplied by the X, because that's my unknown. What is the 300 getting multiplied by?
6.
Times 6. All right, try to find the answer on your own. Okay, so you want to work the side that you don't know. Is there any kind of work right now that I can do with 15x?
No.
No, so I'm just going to drop it down. Is there any work that I can do on this side over here?
Yes.
Yes.
Multiply.
What's 300 times 6?
1,800.
1,800. Remember, your whole goal is to get x by itself. What is not allowing x to be alone? Times 15. How do I get rid of multiply by 15? Divide by 15. Guys, this is the same lesson we've been doing forever. So if you are struggling on this, you've got to spend some time reviewing and going over previous lessons to help you get this. What is my answer?
100 equals a. X equals 100.
X equals 100. Now, as I go back through my story problem, because every story problem must have units attached, it asks me, how many square feet would 6 gallons of paint cover? What's the answer? 120 square feet. Please know you must always attach the units, okay? As I walked around, a few people had the answer 120, but only 2 people had 120 square feet. All right, so since this came from lessons 8.4 and 8.5, I've taken the homework questions from both of them, but there's still only 10 problems just like normal.